Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mandy channel. What I'm going to start doing is looking through my videos that have the fewest views and then re-uploading them. This video just has like 2 views, so I think it's going to be new for most of you. With that, let's jump in.
The panel today are Mr. Alvin Roche, Mr. Pete Friedman. My name is Tony Marabella. I'll be acting as chair today. Our remote location is at DCI. Would the staff at DCI please introduce themselves?
Good morning, Dusty Beckham Warden.
Donald Cavalier Classification.
Destiny Jerry, Administrative Coordinator.
Ashley Bradley, Records.
Alvin King, Reentry.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Our first case is Mr. Christopher Heyman. Mr. Heyman, would you please introduce yourself and give us your DOC number?
My name is Christopher Hammond. My DOC number is 715983.
Mr. Heyman, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then the board will conduct the parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we'll allow the participants who've indicated they wish to speak to have their input. Present today is your father, Mr. Rob Heyman, speaking on your behalf. Ms. Melissa Heyman, speaking on your behalf. Your attorney is Mr. Franz Borgart. Mr. Borgart, if you would, please make an appearance for the record.
Yes, sir, Judge. For the record, Franz Borgart, present on behalf of Mr. Christopher Hammond.
And Mr. Hammond, at the end, you'll be allowed to make a brief statement before the board votes. Do you understand our process, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. This is the matter of Christopher R. Hammond, H-A-M-O-N, date of birth, May the 9th of 1995. Mr. Hammond is classified as a first felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of January the 14th of 2023. He is not eligible for good time. He has a full term date of October the 15th of 2024. He is currently serving a 7-year sentence on the charge of indecent behavior juvenile. Is that information accurate, Mr. Hammond?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hammond, your case has been assigned to Mr. Pete Freeman. We'll begin our interview process with these. Okay. We also have opposition today. Miss Sierra Wilkinson and Mr. We have in opposition, Miss Sierra Wilkinson will be speaking in opposition today. All right. Mr. Freeman, I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. Heyman, how old are you?
I am 27 years old.
Okay. How long have you served on this charge?
I've served 5 out of 7, sir.
What's your education level?
I have a high school diploma and a little bit of college.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what happened to get you in the predicament you were in. What did you do?
What did I do? What I did was I went on to a online texting site and just started talking to people, and I found a young lady, and we started chatting. I was fully aware of the age of her and her of my age. Throughout the process of this, pictures were sent from my end. And after about, I'm going to go with a couple of months, I made the note that I would come down and see her. In the process of doing this, I made it to Louisiana, and we ended up meeting up, and that was the end of that. Her parents intervened.
Okay. I see the victim was 14. How old were you?
This was 16. I was 21 at the time, I believe.
You didn't realize it was illegal to try to have a relationship with this young lady?
No, sir, I did.
Okay. Well, after that, they put you on probation. So I guess then you did realize that it's illegal to be having a relationship with somebody younger than you
Yes,
but
sir.
then you got revoked because you were sexting with juveniles and you were in chat rooms. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So you didn't learn your lesson from the first offense.
No,
You were
sir.
back at it again.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hangman, we have, the DA is opposed, your family's unopposed, and the victim is strongly opposed.
Okay.
What is gonna be your transition plan if you were to be let out? Where you gonna live, where you gonna work?
I will be living in North Carolina at 2028 Ashbrook County, Leland, North Carolina, 28451 with my grandmother.
You started the interstate compact paperwork on that yet?
No, sir, I have not.
Tell me why should I believe you're not gonna do this again if you've already done it twice?
The reason I know you should believe that I will not do it again is because in these last 5 years, I have had a long time to meditate. Along with that, with a bunch of the classes that I have taken amongst the people that I have lived around for these last 5 years, I have gotten into a mindset that this is wrong. And I'm sorry, so sorry that I did it to start with. And I am absolutely embarrassed that I have done this. It's unacceptable.
Okay, what happened on 6/8/21? Why were you written up?
I was written up because I missed the workday here at DCI Votech.
You have a moderate risk, you have a need that is men. Did you take the sex offender treatment classes?
I am in it right now.
All right, how far along are you in those classes?
About 4 weeks.
Okay, and what's the total length of those classes, Warren?
It's 4 phases. I can't remember exactly how long it is.
It's 4 phases.
I understand that. I can't remember, Mr. Freeman. About 9 months, I think, is what I'm thinking it is.
Okay, you have a static 99 that is high. I have no further questions, Mr. Maribel.
I have a couple of questions. Mr. Hammond, tell me what you've learned from these sex offender programs. I know you said you've learned some things while you've been in there. Tell me what you learned. Why is it that we should trust that you're not going to go back to do this? This is, these crimes are a little different than burglaries and thefts and things like that. This really involves a lot of emotional issues. So tell me why it is that we should trust that you have learned something and won't go back doing this.
The reason I think you should believe that is because through the, granted, as short time as it has been, through the 4 weeks and being able to read through the papers that I've had, including one that actually has really hit me at home more than anything, which is being those risk factors and relating them to me more than anything. With my biggest one was, and I know I did it, was the blame game, blaming somebody else for my mistake. Along with that, another one I relate myself to was, it was impulse, thinking without acting, just going with it. And through these last 5 years, I have gone back to see if I do still do those things and do still work on them. I don't do them. I stop and think before I do anything, because especially being in here, consequences have actions, or actions have consequences. I apologize.
And let me, you seem to be a pretty bright guy, and you seem to be maybe reciting some things that you've learned. Let's talk about your plea. You pled guilty to these charges?
Yes, sir.
Is that an ongoing process, or did it just happen, boom, boom, you walk in and plead guilty? Or was there some negotiations that required you to do certain things before they would accept your plea? Did you have to go to counseling? Did you have to do some things like?
They in the streets, they did have me they had me do some of the on the street sex offender course.
Okay, and how
uh,
long ago did you do
patient.
that?
How long ago?
No, how long, what did you do on the street, so to speak? While you were on probation or before you got your deal?
It was after everything had gone. It was for the probation aspect was
So
that
you were on probation and
Yes.
you were required to take sex offender treatment.
Yes, sir.
And did you do that?
Yes, sir. I did go to those
How
classes.
long did you go to those programs?
Say that one more
How long
time.
did you go?
How long
How
did I go?
long did you go to those programs?
It was until I went until the revocation happened.
Well, how long is that?
I have to go with. I'm gonna go with 6 months.
So you were in treatment for 6 months, yet you were still, the treatment is basically what you're talking about you're taking now, designed to show you what your triggers are, show you emotionally how maybe you can combat what these feelings are, yet you still did what you were doing. So why is that different than what you're doing now? I know you're in jail, and I know
Yes,
you
sir.
might have more reason to pay attention, but why is that different? Why should I say, okay, well, what's the difference now?
The difference now is the maturity level from who I was then, sir, to who I am now. To be able to be responsible for my actions. Back then, I had the maturity level of I was invincible. I could do no wrong. And I do see that looking back now, that was something I believed in, that I could do no wrong. There was nothing wrong I could do in my mind at all. And now I can definitely say that I have a different change in my mindset.
Is that because you're in prison now?
No, that has actually nothing to do with it. Really, being in here, I can
Okay,
actually.
all right, thank you. That's all I got. Any other questions? Okay, let's hear from Mr. Rob Heyman, your father. Mr. Heyman?
Yes, sir. I have to agree with Chris. A level of immaturity was rampant at home as well as in other events. But what I've seen is a complete change in his concept of what it means to have consequences to actions. The thing I think he's learned that I've seen in my visits with him and my chatting with him by phone over the last 5 years is he understands the concept of consequences when before he didn't. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heyman. Ms. Heyman, is there anything you'd like to tell us about your son?
Yes. In 2017, I saw a very immature man who really thought there were no consequences. I mean, Christopher just said it, hit the nail on the head. He didn't realize that there would be any consequences. I've watched him grow through conversations. He has turned into an academic, which he never really put any effort in.
I just want to share my thoughts here. Look at the attorney in the bow tie. I think he's thinking what I'm thinking, which is they got lost on this word consequences. That's not what you want to say. They're going down a trap, right? He offended twice. He would have learned their consequences the first time. It's just the wrong approach, I think.
Into growing up. He's a voracious reader. He reads all the time. He takes science news, and he and his dad have the most incredible conversations about physics and science. I knew that Chris had the knowledge, but he just never showed it at the time when he was younger. He studies for his automotive classes like I've never seen him do. He had the opportunity to go to college while he was out and just didn't take it seriously. I just seen him grow. He's grown into an adult where he definitely was not. I just have to say he's learned consequences happen. If you do something wrong, there are consequences. So,
Thank you very much, Simon. We appreciate you. Now we'll hear from Ms. Sierra Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I listened to this entire meeting and my nerves are very bad, but I believe that it really is, it comes down to morality, and you know what you do. Know what they were doing is wrong. Has nothing to do with how smart you are, how intelligent you can be, or your opportunities to be better when you did it once and then again twice. I believe it comes down to protect. Or your opportunities to be better when you did it once and then again twice. I believe it comes down to protecting our youth. It comes down to protecting my kids and your kids. And I believe that even given the opportunity to grow, the only thing he has learned is that if you get caught, there are consequences. I believe that if he does not get caught, he will continue to go on this rampage of destroying our youth. And as the older generation, as I was 15 when it happened, 14 actually, and I believe that it was okay. I'm 21 now, and I can stand here and tell you that I'm disgusted. If my daughter was 14 talking to a 21-year-old, I would not have some nice things to say. I have learned as well. This is an ongoing problem because we don't catch them. And I would just like to say, I do not think it will change, and we'll just get better at not getting caught. And I would just like for you to consider your daughter and your granddaughter and any future children that you go into a store, at a library, at your work, myself, when you consider this case. And that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Mr. Borkhardt, do you want Mr. Hammond to say a few words and then you'll close? Normally at this point, we allow the inmate to say whatever they'd like to say. Usually the lawyer will close. Is that what you want to do today?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Hammond, is there anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to, well, Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Hammond?
Hey, I said, good morning, Mr. Marbella. He had that write-up, that one write-up back then. As far as his institutional record's pretty good. He's done some classes. I'd like to see him finish that sex offender treatment class. I would like to see that take place. But besides that, his institutional record's fair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hammond, what would you like to say?
Biggest thing I'd like to say is there's nothing I can do to change what I did. And really, in my mind, sorry isn't really going to cut it. But I'm going to say it again anyway. I deeply apologize for what I've done. And she is absolutely correct. It is absolutely unacceptable.
Thank you very much. Mr. Borkhardt?
Gentlemen, good morning. I will be brief. I had the opportunity of knowing Christopher from day one. After the arrest, I represented him at the state court level. I represented him throughout that process and through the revocation. If I'm sitting in your shoes, I'm thinking, well, what's different? You were given the opportunity to be probated. You got revoked. What's different? I will tell you, Christopher is a much different human being than when I met him. There is a plan in place, both vocationally, both with living, that I believe he will abide by, and I do think that he can abide by the conditions of parole. What we have is an individual that has a good institutional record. one infraction over the 5 years, and the one infraction, I don't want to say it's minor, it's not hugely serious. That also being said is, I think Mr. Hammond, I think Christopher hasn't said this, but it's something that I know that the family and I agree on, is his treatment, his counseling with regard to this sex issue is going to continue when he's out. I think part of balancing knowing the consequences is knowing internally that he has issues that he needs to address with counselors. It's not something that's going away, and it's something that if he does address, he can be a model and good citizen. I would ask for consideration of all these things. In addition, I would like to point out that he has fully taken responsibility for what he has done. And I think he is a good candidate, gentleman, for parole. And I would ask you to consider these things in your deliberations. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borghardt.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Mr. Hammond, you have done quite a few good things in prison, but the bottom line is you've got to complete that sex offender treatment, and I will consider no one for release until that is done. So my vote today would be to deny.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Mr. Rochek?
Good morning, Mr. Hallman. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Mr. Hallman, you seem to be a very intelligent young man. You have a great set of parents who try their best to keep you straight and narrow. So I'm going to present some facts that I have that will lead to my decision. You have a very high static 99. You know what a static 99 is?
No, sir.
A risk assessment for sex offenders.
Okay.
You scored very high on the static 99 that was done in August of 22. You have a moderate risk assessment. You know what a TIGER is? TIGER is a measurement telling us whether an offender is going to reoffend. You have a moderate assessment. You have opposition from the legal community. The victim is adamantly opposed. You had a very poor supervision performance. You got a chance, and you were that sentence was suspended, and you continue violate the law as far as sexual offenses are concerned. And you've already in phase 1 of your sex offender treatment. All those facts tell me that I have no other choice but to deny your request. You should complete that sex offender treatment, and maybe, just maybe, follow the rules and regulations, and it might be different next time.
Thank you, Mr. Rochek. Mr. Hammond, as I sit here and listen to you talk, I agree with my colleagues. You've got a wonderful, supportive family. They love you. They want to work with you. They want to help you as much as they can. I do believe that you feel the consequences of your actions. But you know, one of the things I didn't hear very much about today in your whole presentation, and that is what you did to this young girl. What effect this has on people that you preyed upon. Those are the things I believe that you will learn in the sex offender program. Those are the things that I think you need to come to grips with. Sex offenses are different than a lot of offenses. Most of us who've been in the criminal justice system realize that. It's got a different element in it. It's a psychological element that needs to be addressed. Hopefully, when you were placed on probation, they wanted you to get that. It didn't work. For whatever reason, perhaps maturity, all of the above. The consequences, You're getting older. The consequences are you're in prison right now. And you're in the sex offender. So I hope you've got a release date in a year and a half. You're going to be getting out regardless in 2024. I hope you take advantage of the opportunities that you have in that sex offender program and learn and really make sure that you understand those. Because, the next time, if you get out and you commit another offense, you might find yourself, especially if it's something to do with pornography or something like that, you might find yourself going to prison for a long, long time. So I really do hope you take advantage of the opportunity that this program is affording you. So you had 2 votes before I even started talking. So you have been denied today your attempt to get parole. But I think if I'm listening to all of my colleagues and listening to your mom and dad, you've got a lot of support. You've got a lot of people pulling for you. The warden said some very nice things about you. But he also believes, I think, you need to finish that program. And that program is very helpful to you. So good luck to you. We want to see you get out. We want to see you stay out. We want to see society protected. So good luck to you.
Well, what do y'all think about that? I feel bad for the parents. It's like, it is a disease. I can't even begin to think about what will cause a man like this to do this, but also just wonder, like, what has he been doing for the past, 3 years, 4 years? Like, why are you not taking the class? Why is it rocket science that you would need to take that to get an appeal? I don't really understand. He seems like an intelligent person. He's got representation. Like, did I miss it? But why did he not take the class? But that's besides the point. I think more of the problem was, he didn't mention the victim. He seemed to be completely clueless. He got caught and then went out and did the same thing. We don't know the details of what he did after he groomed these little young adolescent girls. I don't know how it's like it's a disease, and I wouldn't feel safe with that person living in my neighborhood, I'll tell you that. Keep your kids safe. Keep your kids safe on those computers. All right.